Here are our Mod 5 notes, page 11. I apologize for the poor spacing here. I am going to go ahead and write the equation up at the top here. And I'm going to chop them off at 2 decimal places. Okay. So we want to be able to interpret the slope. And here, our slope is this 8.88. Okay. So our slope is always change in y over change in x. And in this case, our y is the points we earn on this project, and our x is the number of hours we spent working on the project. Okay. So here, our 8.88 is the increase in points for every 1 hour we spend working on the project. So our slope, we always want, here they're going to be in decimals, our denominator is always going to be 1, a single unit increase in x. What's going on with the y? Okay. So our slope here is an increase of 8.88 points for every additional hour spent working on the project, which is right here, crammed in. Again, apologizing for the poor spacing on this. We want to interpret the y-intercept as well. Here our y-intercept is the negative 6.31. Notice I'm reading that minus in front of it as the negative plus a negative 6.31, same thing as minus 6.31. So our y-intercept here is negative 6.31. Our y-intercept is always where we intersect the x-axis. So our x-axis is our 0. That means when we spend 0 hours working on the project, we would expect a score of negative 6.31 points. Okay. It is important when you interpret the y-intercept, you need to figure out whether or not this makes sense. So even if you don't spend any time working on it and don't turn anything in, chances are you're not going to get a negative score on it. So sometimes that y-intercept does not make sense in the context of the problem. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to go back that far in time. So as you interpret the y-intercept, you really need to stop and make sure that the number that you are spitting out makes sense in the context of the problem. It may make sense in the context of the equation, but in our real world situation, we need to decide whether or not that is something that is a usable value, or we just say, hey, this is the y-intercept, but it doesn't really make any sense.